All right, hello music fans. I'm going to try a new type of video today. Today I'm going to be reacting to a list published by someone else. This list is published by Loudwire, and it's the 100 best rock and metal albums of the 21st century. I may not know every album on the list, but I'm just going to kind of skim through and see if I think they did a good job. Right off the bat, looking at the picture here, I see System of a Down, Toxicity, so that's a good one. I think that's Opeth, Ghost Reveries, I like that. Green Day, American Idiot, Kill Switch Engage, I think, End of Heartache, and this is Mastodon. Red Hot Chili Peppers are in here. So it looks like they have some pretty good bands. Deftones, Iron Maiden, Queens of the Stone Age. Lots of stuff. Ghost, Children of Bodom, At the Drive-In, Amon Amarth, Disturbed, Alice in Chains, Converge, Between the Buried and Me Colors. That is great. Happy to see that on here. Avenged Sevenfold, Nightmare, Doom. Maybe this is the video game soundtrack, and Linkin Park. All right, so I don't know what order they're going to be in, but let's find out. So it looks like number 100 is System of a Down with Mesmerize. I think this is a great album. This is actually probably my favorite System of a Down album. And I'm guessing they're going to put Toxicity higher, as most people do, but I actually kind of like this one. I think this one's the most fun for me. Good pick. Overkill with Ironbound. I don't think I've heard this one, but I believe it's thrash metal. And that's not like my main style of metal, but I'm sure it's decent. Napalm Death, Utilitarian. I don't think I've heard this either, but I think they're kind of grindcore. Isn't really my main style. I've heard some other Napalm Death albums though, and it's pretty good for that grindcore genre. Dimmu Borgir with Death Cult Armageddon. So that's cool to see. This is black metal. I haven't heard this particular Dimmu Borgir album, but I've heard some others, and they're pretty kind of solid black metal. I think they use some symphonic elements in their music, which I don't usually like much black metal, but for this band, I actually kind of enjoy it. Here's one that I like, and I'm kind of surprised to see on the list. It's Woods of Ypres with Woods 5, Gray Skies and Electric Light. This is a pretty great album. It's kind of doomy. Yeah, I really like it. Very kind of has a very sad, somber feel to it. Hailstorm with The Strange Case of. I have not heard this one, but I do know the vocals of Lizzie Hale are really good. I've heard some songs by Hailstorm, and she's a great vocalist. Not exactly my style of music, but makes sense. Architects with Holy Hell is on here. I don't know about this one. Like I feel like Architects' earlier work is better than their later work for me. I'm not really a fan of their newer stuff. Okay, number 93, Power Trip, Nightmare Logic. I don't know this album. I guess blending thrash metal and hardcore. Maybe that'd be interesting to check out. Number 92, Breaking Benjamin with Phobia. I've seen Breaking Benjamin live when they opened for Avenged Sevenfold, and they're pretty good. I know the song Diary of Jane, and it's really catchy. I'm not sure if I've heard this full album. It's not exactly my style. I wouldn't personally put it in my top 100 albums of the century. Immortal, this is black metal, not my style, so definitely would not be in my list. Shining, I've never even heard of this one. What is this? Maybe it'd be interesting to check out. Spirit Box, Eternal Blue. Yeah, I like this album. This kind of metalcore, female vocals, pretty solid. Probably wouldn't be in my top 100 albums of this century so far, though, but it is good. Him, Love Metal. I don't know if I've heard this either. Not sure what this is. The Used is kind of a well-known emo band. Again, not my style. I probably wouldn't. I mean, I do like some post-hardcore, but this isn't my personal favorite kind of post-hardcore. I like more of the crazy fast guitar post-hardcore stuff like Hail the Sun and Idola. This one's, they're pretty influential, so I see why they're on here, but it's not exactly my style. Black Dahlia Murder, yeah, I like this one. Nocturnal. This is melodic death metal, and their guitar parts are pretty awesome. The vocals are intense, really brutal, lots of like death growls, and well, it's pretty much all screaming, harsh vocals. Poison the Well. I don't know if I've heard this one. Genre benders. I thought they were kind of metalcore, but it's saying hardcore. I think I've heard some of their songs, but not this whole album. May have to check that out. Cynic Trace and Error, I love this one. Great progressive metal. This is actually my favorite Cynic album. I know most people like their first one, where they're even more death metal. Their first one's called Focus. That's, I think, their most critically acclaimed one, but I kind of like this one the best of their work. I wonder if their other one will be on the list. Actually, no, their other one wouldn't be in this century, so it won't be eligible for the list. Bad Religion is a really popular punk rock band. I don't listen to them much, so I can't comment on this particular album. I love Pussifer's Conditions of My Parole. I think that's a good one. Maynard James Keenan is a great vocalist, sings in Tool and A Perfect Circle, and this is his other project. Shinedown, definitely not my thing. I would not put it on my list, but I haven't really listened to the full album either, so. High on Fire, I have not heard this one. Maybe worth checking out. Machine Head, I'm aware of them, but haven't listened to this full album. All right, here's one I love. Mars Volta, Deloused in the Comatorium. I would probably put it even higher than number 78. I think this is the best album by the Mars Volta, and they're a band that I like a lot. They're probably in my top 30 bands of all time. Rise Against, this is a really good punk rock album. It's got some hardcore, like melodic hardcore, I guess, influences in there. And I think this is one of their best, so it's a good pick for Rise Against. Yeah, I love the song Ready to Fall. Blink-182, their self-titled album, classic pop punk. Definitely, whenever this came out, what year did this come out? I'm not sure, but when I came out, I was probably still in elementary school, like 7th grade. Yeah, songs like Feeling This, Down, I Miss You, those were really catchy. I like those songs then. I've kind of moved, my tastes have moved on, but I still have some nostalgia for this and really like it. Linkin Park Meteora, this is my favorite Linkin Park album. I know a lot of people like Hybrid Theory as well, but that's my second favorite. I wonder if it'll be on the list as well. But yeah, I really like songs like, Numb, Faint, Somewhere I Belong, Breaking the Habit, classic kind of new metal album. Chester's vocals are great. Rest in peace, Chester. Carcass Surgical Steel, I have not heard this. Gore grind is definitely not my thing, so I probably won't be listening to it, but I get that they're trying to represent a variety of genres here. Rush, Clockwork Angels, I like it. I actually kind of like Snakes and Arrows a little bit better. And that's one of their other albums from the 21st century, so not sure if that'll be on here, but both Clockwork Angels and Snakes and Arrows are good. slightly prefer Snakes and Arrows. I probably wouldn't put Clockwork Angels in the top 100 of the century, but maybe Snakes and Arrows would just crack it. I think their work in the 70s is a lot better, and even the early 80s with Moving Pictures and Signals. I love those albums in that period of the band more than this, but this is still pretty good. Isis with Oceanic. This is really awesome post metal. It says post rock, but it's kind of got some metal to it. They have a very unfortunate band name. I don't think they exist anymore. But for people that like post rock and post metal, I think you would like this. Suicide Silence. This is a classic kind of deathcore album. Not exactly my go-to genre, but I remember hearing this, I believe, and it's pretty good for that style. Yeah, for fans of like Job for a Cowboy. Baroness Blue Record is a great one. That makes sense. Turnstile Glow On, I have not heard. This looks like it's punk. Avenged Sevenfold Nightmare. Yeah, I like this. I actually kind of like their self-titled album a little bit better than this. Not sure if that will also be on the list, but this is great. This had the drumming of Mike Portnoy after the death of the Rev. Really solid album. I think it deserves to be in the top 100. I'd probably put it even higher, honestly, than number 68. Mon Amarth, I think they're melodic death metal. I haven't heard this particular one, but I listened to their 2022 album and it was decent, but not really my thing. I don't know if it really, if this is better than their most recent work, then maybe it deserves to be on here, but I wouldn't think their most recent work is deserving to be on here. This one is great. Between the Buried and Me, Parallax 2. Maybe my second favorite Between the Buried and Me album after Colors. I would probably put this in the top 10 albums of the century. A really great progressive metal album. Municipal Waste, The Art of Partying. I haven't heard it, but I know this is kind of like party pizza thrash, I think. So if you like that kind of thing, you'll probably like it. Disturbed the Sickness. Yeah, I definitely heard this, and this is a pretty interesting listen. I'm not a big fan of Disturbed, but this I think is one of their best albums, if not their best. And I still kind of like this one. And everyone likes the song Down with the Sickness. It's kind of iconic. So I could understand it deserving to be on here. It wouldn't be on my top 100 list. Stone Sour, I'm not a huge fan of. I think it's a side project from Corey Taylor of Slipknot. It seems to be pretty popular, so I see why it's on here, but not for me. Sum 41, All Killer No Filler is a great kind of pop punk album, kind of like the Blink-182 one, if you like that. I like this. Pretty solid. Probably wouldn't be in my top 100 of the century, but for pop punk, it's up there, like Blink-182, Sum 41, some of the best pop punk bands for me. Audio Slave. I'm not even sure if I've heard this. I really should have, because I think it's got Chris Cornell on vocals and he's great. And then the remaining members of Rage Against the Machine. I'm sure I've heard some songs of this, and everything I've heard from them sounds good, but I haven't listened to the whole album. Dillinger Escape Plan, Ironworks. This is my favorite album from Dillinger Escape Plan. I'd put it even higher than number 60. This is great. Great album. Probably the best mathcore album of all time for me. Very experimental and goes electronic as well. Ghost with Infestissimum. Hard to pronounce that one. Yeah, I could see Ghost being on here. They're really kind of catchy and accessible hard rock and heavy metal. But they have that really satanic image, and they wear costumes and stuff that they got really popular. I've seen them live. Pretty good. Not my favorite, but I guess it deserves to be on here. Cannibal Corpse with Kill. This is brutal death metal stuff. Not my cup of tea, but definitely good at what they do. Doom. This is the video game soundtrack. Interesting that they put a video game soundtrack on here. That is surprising, but I know it's very influential on metal music. So that makes sense. Evanescence with Fallen. This is great. Really popular album. Amy Lee's vocals are great. I really liked this when it came out 2003. I was like 13 years old and I love Bring Me to Life, Going Under. I don't listen to it that much now. I've kind of got past that sound. It's kind of more mainstream pop metal or alternative metal. Um, has a bit of a gothic vibe and dark vibes to it, almost new metal at times too, with especially with the Bring Me to Life with the male vocals there sounding almost like rap. But really good album, so I see why it's on here. Pantera, Reinventing the Steel. They're definitely a legendary groove metal band. I think their earlier works from the 90s are more notable than this and more popular. I'm not a huge Pantera fan, so I don't know the names of all their albums and don't remember if I've heard this one in particular, but they're a solid band. Dimebag Darrell is a great guitarist, so I could understand them being here. Pig Destroyer, not my thing. I guess it's grindcore. Okay. Celtic Frost, Monotheist. I've heard this is good, but I haven't listened to it myself. But maybe I'll have to check it out. Iron Maiden, Book of Souls. Definitely not my favorite Iron Maiden album for this century. I really love Brave New World, so hopefully that's on here. I think it will be. Deftones, Diamond Eyes is a great album. Honestly, they could probably put other Deftones albums on this list too. This would probably be in my top 100 of the century as well, along with other ones from Deftones. Incubus, Morning View. Incubus is a pretty solid band, but I'm not sure if I've heard this particular album of theirs. But maybe I should check that out. Avenged Sevenfold, City of Evil. This is great. Deserves to be on the list. I kind of like Nightmare a little bit better than City of Evil, but that's probably just me. I think most people like City of Evil better, so I get why it's higher. Septic Flesh. What is this? I have not heard it. They teamed up with an orchestra. That's interesting. Black and death metal, I guess. Not my main style, but interesting. Necrophagus, Epitaph. Is this technical death metal? I think it is. I have not heard it, but I've heard it's good, so maybe I'll have to listen to it. Killswitch Engage, The End of Heartache is a great classic 2000s metalcore album. Probably Killswitch Engage's most critically acclaimed album. I like it a lot. It's hard to say what my favorite Killswitch Engage album is because they're all so consistent. So I'd say this is pretty deserving. I think Killswitch Engage is one of the most consistent metalcore bands. Probably Every Time I Die is like the best for that, and then Killswitch Engage maybe number 2 in the game. Another one by Ghost, Opus Eponymous. Yeah, I think this one's better than the one they mentioned before. Pretty catchy stuff. Ritual is an amazing song. I wouldn't put it up this high in the top 100, but I could see it like maybe just in the 90s rather than the 40s. But Gojira, L'Enfant Sauvage. I feel like it's a little bit overrated. It's pretty good, but it's not good enough to be in the top 100, I don't think. Agalok, The Mantle. I think I might have checked this out, but I don't remember. Is it doom metal? Not really my main genre, but I think it's pretty good for what it is. Slipknot Volume 3. Yeah, I guess they had to have some Slipknot in here. And I think this one's a pretty good album by Slipknot. Wouldn't be in my personal top 100, but still pretty good. Here we go. Here's a great one. Every Time I Die, Low Teens. Honestly, everything that they put out is great. It's too bad their career is over now. They've broken up, but this is an awesome album and everything they put out is great. So I think they're possibly now my favorite metalcore band. I don't even remember if this is my favorite album, but pick any album by them, they're all great. Queens of the Stone Age, like Clockwork. Yeah, I like this one. I wonder if we'll see some other Queen of the Stone Age albums on the list, because I think all of their work is pretty good as well. Red Hot Chili Peppers Stadium Arcadium. Yeah, I think this is one of the best albums by Red Hot Chili Peppers. So it kind of makes sense that it's on the list. I wouldn't put it up this high though, personally. Alice in Chains, Black Gives Way to Blue. Yeah, they probably had to have Alice in Chains on here. I'm not sure if I heard this one before in full, but I know they're an influential band, so that makes sense. Rammstein, Mutter. This is German industrial metal, and I have not listened to this in full, but industrial metal is not really my style, but I know Rammstein is very iconic and influential, so I see why they're on here. Tool 10,000 Days, I love this. Yeah, this would definitely be in my top 100 of the century. It would probably be even higher than 36. It'd probably be in my top 20 or maybe top 30. It's my favorite Tool album, actually. I know most people love Lateralis, which I do as well, but everything by Tool is great. They should put all their albums in, all their 21st century albums should be on the list. Oh yeah, here's a great one. Porcupine Tree, Fear of a Blank Planet. Yeah, this sounds about a good spot for it too. I'd say it's probably the 30 around that for me as well. Number 35 best album of the century. I love Porcupine Tree. This is probably my favorite Porcupine Tree album. Really great progressive rock band. AFI, Sing the Sorrow. They're kind of more of an emo band. I don't really listen to them much, but I know they're influential. So if you like that kind of thing, I guess you'll like this. Definitely not in my list. Foo Fighters, Wasting Light. Yeah, that's a great one. Foo Fighters is a really great rock band. They have to be on the list. This one makes sense. I wonder if there might be more from them. White Stripes, Elephant. Yeah, this is iconic. Seven Nation Army, you know, like people chant that in stadiums. It wouldn't be in my personal top 100 of the century, but I understand its importance and I like it, even though it's not my favorite. Mastodon, Crack the Sky. This is great. It's in my top few albums by Mastodon, and really everything they do is great. This might be their best album. I actually really like Emperor of Sand though as well. Gorguts, I have not listened to, but I've heard it's good, so I should probably listen to this. Lamb of God, Ashes of the Wake is a great groove metal album that I've heard, and yeah, Laid to Rest is on here. Kind of makes sense that it's in here. I wouldn't put it up this high in the top 100, but maybe just rounding out, you know, in the 90s. Bring Me the Horizon. I don't really like their new stuff. I kind of prefer their older stuff when they were a bit heavier, kind of more deathcore, but even that, I don't really love it. So I wouldn't put anything by Bring Me the Horizon in my top 100, but I know they are popular, so they probably had to put them on here. At the Drive-In, I should really start listening to At the Drive-In because I really love the Mars Volta, and I know that there's members in common, key members. I know this is kind of more their punk and post-hardcore project, and the Mars Volta is their prog project, so I kind of like their prog Mars Volta stuff. But I should really get into At the Drive-In. Paramore with Riot, yeah, that's a great album. I wouldn't put it up this high in the list though. Probably wouldn't even make my top 100, but I understand it's a very influential kind of emo pop punk kind of Warped Tour female fronted band with Hayley Williams, very popular. Killswitch Engage again. Wow, they put Alive or Just Breathing above End of Heartache. That is very surprising to me. I think I like End of Heartache better than this, but this is pretty good as well and really influential on metalcore. This one has Jesse Leach on vocals instead of Howard Jones. Both vocalists are great. Both albums are great, and they probably both deserve to be in the top 100. I just am surprised this one's higher than the other one, and I wouldn't put it this high. Again, maybe in the 90s. Children of Bodom, Follow the Reaper. They're a pretty talented band. I wouldn't put them in my top 100. Not sure if that deserves to be here, but the guitar playing is pretty amazing. The Strokes, Is This It? This is kind of more straightforward rock. I don't think I've heard the whole album, but it's, yeah, just kind of alt rock, pretty typical stuff. I don't know if it's innovative enough to really be here. Red Hot Chili Peppers, By the Way. Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Stadium Arcadium, but it's pretty good. Radiohead and Rainbows. Yeah, they had to have some Radiohead on here. I like OK Computer better, but I think that's from the 90s, so that's not eligible for the list. I kind of even like the Moon-Shaped Pool better. That might be sacrilege to say. But yeah, this is decent. Wouldn't put it up this high in my personal list. My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade. Yeah, that has to be on here. This is like an emo classic. One of the best emo concept albums, if not the best. Very catchy. I love this album. Mastodon again with Blood Mountain. I'm surprised to see that higher than Crack the Sky. I like Crack the Sky better, but Blood Mountain is also awesome. So great to see that here. Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf. Yeah, that's a great one. Maybe the best Queens of the Stone Age album. I think people mostly think it's the best. Green Day, American Idiot. Yeah, this is actually my favorite Green Day album. Probably my favorite pop punk album of all time, I guess. I wouldn't put it up this high in my own personal list. Might not even make my top 100 because I'm not that into pop punk. But for pop punk, this is iconic and must listen. Perfect Circle, Merdinot is a great album, and I'm surprised to see it this high on the list. But that makes sense. It's another Maynard James Keenan album. It might just barely make my list. I wouldn't put it up this high, but it is really good. There's just a lot of great stuff that came out this century, like this Opeth Blackwater Park. Yes, this is about right. This is kind of, yeah, I think number 15 is a good spot for this. This is a great progressive metal album, kind of progressive death metal. I like Ghost Reveries better. I think maybe it'll place a bit higher. We'll see. I also like Watershed a lot. So Ghost Reveries, Watershed, those are kind of my favorite. And then Blackwater Park. Yeah, I feel like those three albums are kind of where Opeth, I even like Deliverance too. Damnation, if you like the soft stuff. I even like their Opeth's new stuff. Pretty much you could put every Opeth album from the 2000s on this list because they're all great. Between the Buried in Me Colors, oh yeah. This would probably be in my top 3 albums of this century so far. So good. My favorite Between the Buried in Me album. Ghost again with Meliora. Yeah, I think this might be one of the best, if not the best Ghost album. But it pains me to see that being put higher than Between the Buried in Me's Colors because it's nowhere near as good in my opinion, but still pretty good. Converge with Jane Doe. Yeah, this is a super iconic metalcore album. Almost verging on mathcore at sometimes. Very spastic and chaotic. I should really get into Converge more. I haven't listened to their full discography yet, but everything that I have heard, I like it a lot. They are one of the best metalcore bands, and I just haven't. I'm just ignorant. But yeah, if you like Every Time I Die and Kill Switch, like they sound very different from those bands, but they're in that same style of metalcore. Behemoth, The Satanist. I think this is kind of, what is this, black metal? I definitely listen to this. It's not my thing, but I can see how it's influential to that scene. Gojira again wouldn't be in my top 100. Again, I feel like they're kind of overrated. Like they're a pretty good groovy progressive metal band, but like they appear on all these best of lists, and I feel like they're kind of like a B. Like there's so many like A tier progressive metal bands, and I feel like these are kind of B listers for me when I hear them. I just feel like there's so many bands doing it better. Meshuggah, Obzen, super influential. Like Meshuggah, yeah, pretty much made the gent genre, even though they probably don't even like to be associated with it. They're very avant-garde and very experimental and boundary pushing with their polyrhythms and crazy timings. Bleed is just an iconic metal song, so I see why it's on here. I would maybe have it in my top 100, but not this high up. I wouldn't put it in my personal top 10 of the century, but it's probably my favorite Meshuggah album though. Mastodon again with Leviathan. That's great. I think Crack the Sky is a bit better still, but love to see that there's already been 3 Mastodon albums on here. I think they're a really great band, one of the best bands of this century. So good to see them being represented multiple times here. Iron Maiden, Brave New World. Yeah, this is my favorite Iron Maiden album of this century. And it might just be my favorite Iron Maiden album in general, which that might be sacrilege to say, but I wouldn't put it up in my top 10 of the century, but maybe just rounding out near the bottom of the top 100. Deftones, White Pony. Yeah, this is great. One of the best Deftones albums, if not the best. Slipknot with Iowa. Yep, they're very iconic. Wouldn't be in my personal top 100, but still pretty good. Yes, Opeth, Ghost Reveries. This is my favorite Opeth album. Good to see them on here. But again, I said you could put every Opeth album on the list. Every 2000s Opeth album could be on this list for sure. Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. Interesting. I like Meteora a little better, but understand the importance of Hybrid Theory. System of a Down, Toxicity. That's, wow, I'm surprised to see it up this high at number 2. Best album of the century. I love it. They're the band that got me into metal in the first place. So happy to see it here. I wouldn't put it up this high, and I like Mesmerize a bit better, but definitely deserves to be in the top 100 somewhere. Tool, Lateralis. Amazing. Definitely one of the best albums of this century. My second favorite Tool album. I do like 10,000 Days a bit better for some reason, but this one's great. They both deserve to be in the top 100. They probably both deserve to be in the top 20 even, or 30. Yeah, I'd say all in all, that's a pretty good list. I'm sad that there's no albums by Protest the Hero in here. I think all of their albums are deserving. Being a prog metal fan, there's other bands that I would like to see in here, like Haken, Tesseract, Periphery, Caligula's Horse. That's kind of the prog metal stuff that I think deserves to be in here. And then like some dark horses that are never going to be in this popular of a list, like Native Constructs album. And then on the prog rock side, I mean, there's been some great stuff this century, even from like heavyweights like King Crimson, and Yes has released albums. Probably not top 100 worthy albums though this century. But I'm happy to see they had Porcupine Tree and Mars Volta and Tool, which are some of the best prog bands around, and they had Mastodon. Yeah, all in all, it's a pretty good list. Definitely looks a lot different from mine. I might react to some more lists if people like this kind of reaction content. We'll see if I feel like doing it again. Until next time, peace out.